Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kyle Miller, and I am the new Manager of Development at Empowerment Squared. That's right. I left a moment for people to clap because I knew my colleagues would clap for me, at least, right? It's my pleasure to welcome everyone here. I joined Empowerment Squared in April, and I've had the opportunity to witness an incredibly dedicated team of community leaders doing really remarkable work. And I just want to make sure to acknowledge them and to thank you all for being here to hear the great work that we're doing. If you haven't noticed, bathrooms are at the back. Your exits are here, 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 and here. We've got food on the side for you. If you signed up for gluten-free or vegan, they're marked G, F, and V appropriately. If everyone can take an opportunity, please, to turn your cell phones off. Nobody wants to be that person. Now that I've said it, I am going to be that person. And I'm going to forget to turn my cell phone off. Great. You may have noticed that there were notes that we are live streaming the event, so you may or may not be on camera. There's a whole little disclaimer there, so you're going to be on camera. Great. Terrific. I would not be a fundraiser if I did not tell you about a fundraising initiative that is coming up, that is launching on August 15th. But you, everyone, are the luckiest recipients to be able to order your Smile cookies early. That's right. If any of you are confused and wondering what a Smile cookie is, the wonderful folks at Tim Hortons provide all the ingredients we need so that 100% of the proceeds of the sale of Smile cookies go right back into the fantastic work at Empowerment Squared. Our summer interns, Calvin and Shafi, will wave. They're back there at the table, so after the presentation, take an opportunity to ask them some questions, and you can get your pre-orders in, and then we'll send you an email, and we'll distribute those in September, and everyone will have a cookie, because who doesn't love cookies? Apparently, none of you love cookies. Nobody loves a cookie. Wow. I really thought people were going to get excited for cookies, but they're not. Okay, terrific. My other colleagues may or may not be excited to hear this, but she is my absolute #1 favorite thing about Empowerment Squared. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Manager of Strategic Initiatives. This is Kenesha Gardner.
I am the best. It is definitely a hard job being the best, but I do what I must. I do what I must. Welcome, everyone, again, to Empowerment Squared School Readiness Program launch. This is truly, truly a very exciting occasion for us all. I think especially for me, because I've been working so hard through the pandemic, and to come out of the pandemic and to see everything fall in line, it is definitely a moment to celebrate the progress that we've made. And so I want to thank you for being here. I think I'm going to get a little emotional tonight, but I'm going to try not to. I'm very excited for the program that we have rolled out tonight. We have some amazing panelists that will speak to why the work that we're doing with the School Readiness Program is important. We also get to celebrate and recognize some of the youth in our community that have worked really hard this summer to develop themselves and to learn leadership skills. And so I'm very excited to honor them in your presence this evening. And you may be wondering, some of you, why this program is important. I've been working with Empowerment Squared for 5 to 6 years now. I began as a volunteer. I immigrated to Canada in 2009, and I thought settling into Canada, into the community, was going to be easy. I had been educated here in Canada at university. I thought, everything was going to work out perfectly, but it did not. It was definitely a struggle. And so when I was introduced to Leo, and he said, we're doing this work in the community. We have a lot of newcomers, their families, their children are struggling in school, and they need support. So I went, I sat down, I started this work, and I thought, oh my goodness, If I, who was educated in university in Canada and spoke English, struggled, the barriers, the challenges that children and youth were facing seemed almost insurmountable. There were very few supports outside of the school system, within the school system, that was directly related to not just academic support, but that wraparound support with helping families understand the school system and also be able to thrive within the school system. And so here we are today, 5-6 years later, ready to launch a program that we know will make a huge difference in the lives of the children and youth in our community. And so you are very welcome to be here. So before we continue, I would like to introduce Mr. Paul Takala. He is the CEO and Chief Librarian here at the Hamilton Public Library and a champion of the work that Empowerment Squared is doing in the community. He is a champion also for newcomer families and their children to access equitably information, whether it's technology, through programming, through just reading. And so he's here to just greet us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm really excited to be here today to welcome you into the library. Congratulations to Empowerment Squared and the Hamilton District School Board for their partnership, working together. We think it's great. And thank you congratulations to also the support of the Social Planning and Research Council and the Trillium Foundation for helping make this work possible. Today, this is one of the first in-person group events we've had back in the library, and I think I don't have to tell anyone that the last 2 years, have been challenging on many levels, but we're really happy to welcome you here today. I think at the library, we've been doing a lot of thinking about what we need to do going forward. And in terms of our thinking and looking at some of the challenges that we face together in our community, one thing that we've become really focused on is working with other partners that are trying to make life better for people in our community. And I think these kind of, we really need to work together if we're going to make lasting impacts. There are a lot of challenges. We see more challenges than we have in the past in the library. And we really have to, all institutions and organizations and community and individuals, we really need to come together to work together so that we can create a kind of future that's more just and has a more shared prosperity for people. I just want to finally say that thank you. We are looking forward to supporting this initiative as we move forward, and we just want to congratulate the work of all the people involved. Thank you very much. Am I calling on the next speaker? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Is important to us because it gets empowering skills is important to us because it gets us better in our works.
Empowerment Squared is important for young people because as a newcomer myself, I've experienced so many challenges. And so for a young person that doesn't have support and doesn't have the skill set that they need to accomplish their goals, Empowerment Squared is that community. It is that place where they can develop these skills and they can see their goals and their dreams become reality. When I joined Empowerment Squared in 2015, we were in a small one-room building. We had about 30 to 40 students depending on the day that we were meeting. Today it's very different. We've partnered with IWC, and so now we can put our kids in classrooms, and we can meet their needs based on their age groups, based on their abilities, based on their needs.
So I'm Jane North, and I just got involved with the Empowerment Squared Homework Club a couple weeks ago. I think Homework Circle really benefits the kids. I can see that it creates a sense of community, and everyone's excited when they come in. So not only are they getting educational benefits, but they're also, having a social space where they can meet friends and, get really involved in the community. So that's nice to be a part of.
My name is Angel Esteban. I started as an academic mentor at Empowerment Squared, and then my role started changing to a lead of academic mentors. The reason why I got involved with Empowerment Squared was because I've always wanted to be involved with working with kids, helping them, and just be in their environment. So I've been coming to Empowerment Squared for about 6 months now. I just love coming back here just because I see the kids are improving, they're learning. They're really eager to know more about the culture, just adapt, and just become somebody one day.
I like to come to the homework club because it helps me a lot and I get my work done and the volunteers help me. I like here because it means a lot to me.
What I love the most is that I am surrounded by these dynamic people who all bring their own strengths. It's not just staff, but it's also mentors. It's also folks who come across different disciplines and different walks of life, and everyone brings their knowledge, and everybody brings their compassion, and everybody brings their love, and I think that's the value that it really brings.
Empowerment Squared is an organization that creates a lot of opportunities and spaces, and whether it's our academic mentoring program, whether it's our young professionals program, whether it's our access to post-secondary program, or whether it's even our project in Liberia, the Liberian Learning Center, we are creating all of these spaces.
A program like Empowerment Square is important for new kids and new youth because it provides with all of the guidance, all of the support. It allows you to be yourself. It allows you to overcome all of those challenges that a lot of people don't even know about when you first come to Canada and you don't speak the language, you don't know anybody, you don't have any family, you don't have any support. These people provide all of those things for you.
Empowerment Squared is a key part of this community because we've created an opportunity where volunteers, program participants, staff, supporters, all have felt a value that they don't just contribute to the organization, but they also gain from the organization. Many of our volunteers and our mentors always tell us that for them, this has been a life-changing moment, getting involved with Empowerment Squared. But we have an ultimate goal, and our ultimate goal is empowerment for all of the families and youth that we serve.
Empowerment Squared is important.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces and some faces I've never met also. My name is Leo Nupolu Johnson, and I am the Executive Director at Empowerment Squared. I've often said to a lot of people, especially the last 2 years or 2.5 years, when we've had to experience the pandemic, which changed all of us in different ways, whether it was your organization or your workplace or our personal lives. And a lot of things occur, but one thing that happened to me was I said that a lot of communities, especially newcomer communities, especially marginalized community, Black communities, have spent so much time fighting that the only thing sometimes we've ever done have been to fight. And rightfully so, because there are things in our society we need to tear down. There are things in our society we need to fight against. But what struck me the most was that often there isn't a lot left when we have to build, because all of the energy gets poured out on the fighting side, that when the vacuum gets created after we've toned down the things that we fight against, it becomes impossible to build. And then the vacuum becomes dangerous because what comes back into it sometimes is worse than what we got rid of. And that is where, as an organization, we had to define over the last 2 years, what was our place in the community when we couldn't gather anymore, when the kids could not come in anymore, when it was impossible to even support them because they didn't have computers, when it was impossible to support them because the internet bandwidth was not strong enough for more than one person in a house to even be on Zoom. And it was easier to close the doors and say, it's pandemic, it's COVID, we shut down until we see what happens. But it is in tough times that the test of our character surfaces. It's not when everything is going well. It is when things are not going well that our characters are really tested. And it's easier to avoid that test and everybody stays in your own lane, or it is the time to even double down, because that's when the need is felt the most. It's not when everybody's okay. And we had to make a choice, and that choice was to ensure that we would not close our doors. And I mean literally, because when these families knew nowhere to go, there were days where people would come knocking on the door, even though we said there was no in-person. And the question becomes, do you tell them no, go away with nowhere to go, or do you find a way to support? And that's what we've done over the last 2 years. I'm really pleased with the incredible effort of our staff and volunteers that we were able to keep supporting over 100 children and families, even within the midst of the pandemic. And the reason I say this, through the programs that we were able to facilitate, our access program, for example, we had to pivot. We could not just keep talking about academics, when the truth is there were more severe things that families were dealing with than whether or not the kids were going to school or not. So we had to do our access program that we launched, which was focused on two key things. One, the issue of access to technology. We often take it for granted that when you have 5 kids in the house, that all have to be on Zoom at the same time, right? From the internet bandwidth to the availability of computers, it's practically impossible when it is a 2-bedroom apartment and where everyone else is going to set up without disrupting the other one. So the Access to Technology program was extremely crucial, where we partner with McMaster University and the Hamilton Community Foundation also to provide computers. Some we had to purchase ourselves. Some were provided by the university where they could be refurbished and get put in good working conditions so that families could, at the very least, have access to some sort of connectivity beyond just school. And then the issue of food insecurity that we often overlook. It's a serious problem, and that problem got even exaggerated when the pandemic struck, with a lot of families who were relying on the breakfast program at school, that they only had to provide one meal for the kids because the kids can participate in the breakfast program. Now, there was no breakfast program. They had to worry about 3 meals a day, and they could not provide that. So imagine having to wait for a certain time of the day to have access to food. So we launched the Access program with ensuring that we provided gift cards, prepaid gift cards, that allow people to still have the dignity, right? I often struggle to have people come to the door and we pack the foods we think they want to eat and hand over to them. I've really struggled with that. So I was really pleased when we could provide those prepaid gift cards so that people can still have the dignity to go out and figure out what type of foods best serve their needs, everything from cultural to religious to health, all of the things that we can think about. And we want to thank our funders. Some are in the room tonight, from the Hamilton Community Foundation to the United Way. We really want to be grateful for the resources that were provided to ensure that over 900 families across were supported through the Access program, whether it was through the Access to Food or Access to Technology program at different levels. But what happened even more incredibly was, as people were closing their doors, we were discussing with the board. I went to the board with this crazy idea of expanding to find an additional location. And that sounded crazy because people were talking about shutting down, no one's knowing when things will open again, and then we were talking about getting an even bigger space where no one was coming in. But we made the case, and we were able to expand by forging, again, an incredible partnership with the Hamilton Children's Aid Society. And I'm saying incredible to reflect on the comment I made about fighting and building. Yes, we have to do both. That is the reason why we must fight with one hand and build with the other. And we know the Children's Aid Society in general, the child welfare system, haven't had a great record with our communities in terms of some of the things that we've seen and the evidences that have shown. But we could either keep on this angle of confrontation consistently, or we could find the opportunities where we could work together to confront some of these issues, even if we made 1% progress. So we engaged CAS, and to their credit, they were open to engage with us. We forged a partnership. that didn't just lead to us getting an additional close to 10,000 square foot of space for programming, but it led to the establishment of a newcomer team within the Hamilton Children's Aid Society. And that team today is working closely with Empowerment Square to ensure that when there are challenges with newcomer families or newcomer children, it's not just a one-size-fits-all. We can work together to figure out what is the best approach to deal with this so that kids don't end up falling through the cracks while we were trying to help them. And I'm pleased to tell you that as far as I'm concerned, by December, Empowerment Square should have the best gym in the city after close to $500,000 of work that is currently being done as a result of that opportunity. Now, that may not seem like a big deal to you, but I'll tell you, we spent almost a year just trying to get access to gym space when we had a bunch of children on waiting lists trying to participate in sports. But to get access to gym was tough. Overall, in the city, we don't have a lot of facilities. That's just the reality. And the few that are there are overwhelmed with all of the different groups that have to. So it's often hard for newer programs within newcomer communities to get space because some of the more established older programs have already been in for a long time. So this may not sound like a big deal to you, but I promise you that if this is not one of the greatest things that has ever happened in our programming life, then I don't know what else is. But I would like to sum up by just saying, again, as an organization, we have figured out that our place in all of this is the building side. Now, that's not to say we will not fight when we have to fight, but we are worried that if we put all of the energy overwhelmingly into the fighting side, then we are left with nothing to build. So we're incredibly grateful that as we launch this program today, it's another example of how we can build within the vacuums that have been created as we continue to take down the very things that affect our communities, all of us collectively. And we cannot do it alone. That is the reason why all of the organizations and partners that we've brought to the table, we are thankful to all of them for opening up, for asking difficult questions, including the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. Because at the end of the day, if we build this community, it will work for all of us. If we don't build it, eventually, I care less where you're from, we will all be affected and impacted by the outcomes, whether negative or positive. So today is another opportunity for Empowerment Square and all of our partners to demonstrate that there is a lot of work to do in fighting, but we also have a lot of work to do in building. So let's hope that we can bring that same energy from the fighting side when we have to fight to the building side. And I will leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou, that you will forget what people did to you. You will even forget what they said to you. But you will never forget how they made you feel. And these children and families that come to us, we want them to feel that they can succeed regardless of all the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. And it is true, you can definitely succeed. I want to share a story with you. A few years ago, one of our participants, his mother called us, and she called me, and she was crying. And she said, Kenesha, I just spoke to my son's teacher, and she doesn't believe that my son has the capacity to go to university. And she'd already made a decision. He was finishing grade 7 at the time and going into grade 8. He was behind in his math skills and his reading skills, and his teacher had made a decision about his future when he was 12 years old. And she was just very overwhelmed, and she asked me, what do I do? So I called Anne-Marie, and I said, Anne-Marie, I have a mother who's called me, and she needs help for her son. I believe that he can do whatever he needs to do or wants to do in life, but he needs the support. And so this young man, she said, okay, we didn't have space, but she took him into the program, and he came every week. She would drop him off. He didn't have a choice. She would drop him off, she would pick him up, and then he spent the entire summer with us. He volunteered in our programming. He would come every day. There was a point, he was helping out with soccer. There was a point where he had a pool party, his friends had a pool party, and I said, well, why didn't you just ask us for the day off and you could have gone to the pool party? He said, no, this is important. I really love being here. And at the end of the day, he went into grade 9. This is about 5 years ago now. He went into grade 9, went into the academic stream, finished his grade 12 credits by grade 11, and is going to university. And so when we say that this program is needed, we are talking from experience. We're speaking from experience. For the many families that we have met over the years, some that we have been able to support and some we have not. But with your support, with our funders' support, we are hoping to never have to turn a family away and say, I'm sorry, there's no space. This systems level innovation allows us to do that because instead of them having to come to us, we can go to the schools. And we can, with the school board and other community partners, identify the students that are in jeopardy of not finishing well. And so I want, Anne-Marie is going to take a few minutes and share with you what the school readiness program model is going to look like.
All right, thank you, Kenesha. For those of you who don't know who I am, so yes, I'm Anne-Marie, the manager of educational programming, but at Empowerment Squared, we all wear several different hats. So another program that another department that I co-supervise with Kenesha is our student and family advocacy program. Under the umbrella of the manager of educational programming, yes, follows the school readiness program, which I'll touch upon. And I'm also the co-lead for that as well. So a big part of why we are successful and why we do what we do is because we're continuously seeking to meet the needs of the people. And as we know, those of us who continue to do this community work, the needs of the community and participants and people, it's forever changing. It's forever changing. So as Leo mentioned, in the midst of the pandemic, we saw that there was a need in the east end of Hamilton to support newcomers and begin to build another base or foundation or home for newcomers in that area. So that's why we ended up moving to the east end. We continuously listen actively to the needs of the community as well so that we can create sustainable, successful programming. And from meeting the needs of the people, from listening actively, we came up with the school readiness program. So the school readiness program is a massive project. However, we are rolling it out in pieces. One of the pieces is a program that Kenesha will talk about a little bit later today, which was the Elite Academy, which was a pilot project that was successfully launched this summer, where we created leaders. And you leaders, I'm talking to you right now, although the program ended, your job has not ended. We're going to be calling on you in the future to support. I see some of you smiling. You know who you are. Another program that we will launch August 22nd of this summer will be our school readiness program orientation. So this program was created to support kids who've just arrived in the country. So they could have arrived within a month. The way that the system works here is that kids arrive and they are assessed at the assessment center at the school board. From the assessment center, they would learn about our program and the families would decide if this would be a right fit for them. We also, through working with the school board, working with other community agencies, have learned that some of the things that these kids feel like they need are learning, building confidence when it comes to speaking to their teachers, building confidence when it comes to speaking to external people, learning just the basics of literacy. For instance, if if you've never been to school and you need to use the bathroom, you might say, "Where's the toilet?" Whereas here, we would ask, "Where's the washroom or the bathroom?" Little things like that we may take for granted, but those are the things that make or break some of the kids' self-esteem. So the goal of our school readiness program is to help those folks, not only the kids, but we also want to support their parents as well. When it comes to systems level innovation, for many of the kids, if they've never gone to school before, they don't know what a report card is. They don't know what the language of a report card means. So we take the time to work with interpreters and to talk to the families and have these group conversations with them, or having these conversations with their teachers if that need be. It's really a case-by-case basis. And as Kenesha mentioned, our goal is to go into the school board, so we continue to work with the school boards to make these families, these kids, the teachers, all of us successful when it comes to dealing with and learning about culturally relevant materials. Thank you. Okay. So another part of the school readiness program, because we created this program out of the needs of the people, was we gathered lots and lots of research. We spoke with youth, we spoke with adults, we spoke with teachers, we spoke with community agencies, and now we want to present this research to you. So I'd like to ask the panelists to come up now. So that's Leo Johnson, Sue Dunlop, and Kim Martin. Sue, you're here. Yeah. And Kim, you're over here. And you're all going to learn a little bit more about this research, and will be moderated by Ms. Kenesha Gardner. Sorry.
Just let's put a round of applause again for our panelists. It's not easy sitting in front of a group of people. I'm just gonna allow you to introduce yourselves. It's easier for me that you do that. So I'm gonna take that route, and we'll start with Sue.
So thank you very much. My name is Sue Dunlop. I'm the Interim Director of Education for the Hamilton-Weymouth District School Board. And I'm very much looking forward to not only the panel, but just to let you know that we do have a director who has been appointed for HWDSB, and her name is Cheryl Robinson Petrozzini, and she'll be beginning August 17th. So I'm here in her stead, and I'm very happy to be here.
Good evening. My name is Kim Martin. I'm the Executive Director for the Social Planning and Research Council. And we were the organization that was working in partnership with Empowerment Squared in terms of this project to produce some of the research and literature review. And I wanted to just congratulate Empowerment Square on such a phenomenal initiative. It's very exciting to be here, and thank you for all of you for joining in the celebration tonight.
I don't think I need to introduce myself, but I just want to say I've worked with Kim now for almost 2 years, and it's my first time actually sitting with her in a room for a long time. And I think this is the second or third time we've ever seen in person. So,
Thank you. So Kim, we'll start with you. What was the role of the Social Planning and Research Council in the research, design, and implementation of the school readiness program?
Great. Thanks, Kenesha. The Social Planning and Research Council, for those of you that may not be as familiar, we produce and facilitate a lot of community research and work with community organizations when they're looking for support in terms of their own research initiatives. And our role in this project was to initially start with a literature review, and we were really looking at what has been done in not only in other cities within Ontario, but also in Canada and even some overseas. How can we develop systems that support the academic achievement and success, in particularly for racialized students and newcomer students? So that was the first stage, to see what has been done, what's been effective, what can we learn from this, and also what are some of the barriers And even though we had some idea of that initially when we started, because that was a big part of what Empowerment Squared was already familiar with, we were able to identify, other areas, and then the next step was really to start testing some of that out and seeing, okay, well, if this is what has been applicable in other areas, what is important for us to know about Hamilton? What is the Hamilton experience? So to take that, macro information and some of that data and bring it down to a local level, and we did that through a series of, interviews, focus groups, and as Anne-Marie said, speaking with young people, speaking with parents, speaking with retired teachers and community leaders, and really trying to understand what are some of the barriers that people are experiencing, and also what are some of the solutions and what are some of the opportunities for this to be better and to improve it. And it's really, one of the things that we focus a lot in terms of social research is looking at that voice of lived experience and really valuing that and leading with that in terms of our research projects. And that was a really key element in terms of the work that we did and partnering with Empowerment Squared.
Thank you, Kim. And, as Kim mentioned, it was really important for us to go to the community. And we really heard so much good feedback from our community members. We had our students come in, we had their parents, and so the development of the program was really grounded in the response from the community, because we wanted to not just do what we thought was a good idea, but we wanted to really ensure that the program met the needs of the community at this time. Sue, if you can, for us, share what's HWDSB's role in the development of the school readiness program?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to do that. And I just wanted to also say that I'm really thrilled to partner with both Empowerment Squared and the SPRC on this. We see both organizations as really pillars in the community in terms of engagement and working together for the betterment of youth and children. So it was very thrilling for us, and I'm really quite intimidated to be on the same stage as both of you. I'll just say that as well, so thank you. Kim's already talked a little bit about the research, and we helped HWDSB. We supported the research by having SPRC have full access to our research and analytics team, and they assisted with literature review and so on. We really felt that was important for them to be able to access the educators as well, and of course along with that came the ethics standards for research, and we were really pleased that we were able to work together to reach those high standards as well, so thank you for that as well. The other thing that we've been really working on recently is, and you may well have read about this in the news, is we've collected student and staff census data. Most recently we released our student census data, and as a result of this project and also that data, we know that we have a really pivotal role to play in terms of quantitative and qualitative research in terms of working with community partners. For example, with student census data, we can take a look at that data and that can help inform which students are struggling, say perhaps in secondary in terms of credit accumulation or something like that. So we're working on that data now, and we're proceeding carefully because we know it can be sensitive, but at getting ready to engage the communities around the best process to use some of that student census data. And you can see some of that student census data on our website if you're interested and you haven't had a chance to take a look. The other role in terms of developing the program really is the support that we're going to be giving Empowerment Squared staff in the school, and both Kenesha and Anne-Marie mentioned that, there they are back there, in terms of working with school staff and system staff at the Welcome Center, which is what we call our assessment center. And so in addition to work on human rights, equity, inclusion happening in schools, staff will be working with Empowerment Squared on that as well. I also wanted to mention, we have a lot of responsibility in this area. The Hamilton Wentworth District School Board, HWDSB, has a lot of work to do and a lot of responsibility. And so when we see the recommendations at the end of the report that was produced, and thank you again for that, we have a role to play in every single one of those recommendations. And so our involvement doesn't end with me sitting here on a panel or with our staff supporting Empowerment Squared staff in schools. It really is around those systemic changes that need to happen within the school board. And then I'd say another role, the final role I want to mention, so even though we're not here to talk about all the things that HWDSP has done, is we really have a role to play in making sure that we're following our equity action plan and acting on all of the aspects of that. And the one in particular I wanted to mention today, because it appears in the report, is around focused recruitment for Black and racialized educators. We know through our staff census and from, of course, anecdotal evidence and the evidence that we saw in the report as well, that we have a lot of work to do there and we need to change. So we have begun that work, and this spring we did complete focused recruitment for Black and racialized educators, and are happy to report that they will be beginning in schools an increased number in September, which is great. It's sort of the first step in that journey. So wanted to mention that as well in terms of some of the roles that HWDSP has, not just to support school readiness, but also supporting Empowered Squared.
Thank you, Sue, and that is extremely important. I think one of the things, representation matters, because it means that when I walk into a room, I feel as if there's someone else like me, I feel that I belong here. And that was one thing that kept coming up in our reports, is that a lot of our young people did not feel like they belonged in the places where they were expected to be. So they were expecting to be in classrooms, they were expecting to do well, but there was no one else there like them, and no one that understood the experiences that they were facing. And so we thank you that the board has taken that step to ensure that when our students walk into the classroom, they know that there's someone else there like them. Thank you. Leo, I'm not gonna leave you out. Yes, that deserves a round of applause, definitely. That's a huge step. So Leo, why is a systems innovation project like the School Readiness Program needed in the Hamilton community?
Yeah, thank you, Kenisha, and thanks to you, Kim, as well, and to Sue with HWDSB. It's been quite a journey working together and figuring out all the little kinks that we need to get together. But I've often put it this way: we've been doing this work for the last, I would say, 13 to 14 years now, working with newcomer children and families, and also racialized youth. We've seen some intersection in terms of the challenges that newcomers face and the challenges that sometimes racialized youth who've been living here for a long time, but because of the issues around poverty or access, have been dealing with some of those same challenges. And it's often the case that we've never been in a position to guarantee that the interventions that we do will be around next year, right? Because we can do all we want to do, but if this stuff is not rooted at systems level, the truth is it could just be an after-school program that was amazing and around for 9 months, and then it disappear. There is no fear of the community losing it, because it's one of those things that's just down there that happens. The second piece around it is that it was impossible to tackle some of the things we were seeing in isolation as an organization, right? So we can support the kids, we can support the families, we can reach out to the teachers, but these were not things that had to be taken on in isolation because they were not isolated issues. For example, disproportionate discipline issue, from suspension to expulsions and everything around us. We quickly started to realize that there was a lot of lack of cultural understanding and cultural relevancy that were resulting into some of these things. And sometimes it was difficult to ask the questions even to the school board, when truth be told, some of the teachers were not even equipped or really prepared to deal with some of these. So they were seeing things showing up on the doorsteps that, frankly speaking, they didn't have the tools, sometimes the resources, or sometimes even the ability or the environment to be able to deal with it. And then we look at things, everything from age-appropriate grades, right? We have a school system in Ontario that is age-appropriate. You know, when you're 15 or you're 14 or you're 13. Now, that worked for us about 50 years ago when all children were expected to be in school around the same age at the same time and grow up together. But now we're seeing young people show up that have never been to school for the last 10 years or have never ever been to school, and they're 12 or 13 years old now. So what do we do? And it's easy to often just sit and say, oh, the school board has to fix it, you know, or the school board must do it. I would be happy if it was possible in a lifetime for the school board alone to take on all of that and get it done. despite how hard they try. And this is where we thought elevating areas in the communities that were well suited to support the school board with some of these challenges was very important, but it had to be part of the education ecosystem. It cannot be this extra thing that just sits there that kids feel I can go to after school or not. It has to feel like this was part of the education ecosystem that they've gotten into that is geared towards supporting their learning outcomes. And that is why we thought the work that we've done, elevating it to systems level, what that means is we work in tandem with the school board that areas of gaps, for example, cultural relevancy and cultural competence, is an area of gap that we all know. Empowerment Square could be well suited giving the environment that we operate in to be able to get at certain things that the school board may not be able to actually get at. But it doesn't have to be exclusive of the board. It can be in tandem with the work that the board is doing so that if a child cannot learn mathematics by looking at a teacher writing on the blackboard in a typical classroom, they could learn it by playing drums. We can teach time signature and teach fractions easily. That will look different to them, but the outcomes is what matter. If learning fraction is the outcome, then it shouldn't matter whether we use drumming or music or whatever else. What should matter is the fact that that child can demonstrate that they understand fractions. So for us, system level was important. Lastly, also for the support, the investments. If I go now to talk to funders, it's an after-school program, right? So let's give $50,000 and ask for $500,000 worth of reports, right? Let's not pay for staff because it's admin, right? Let's not pay for infrastructure. It's too expensive. We can pay for things like bus tickets and snacks and food, right? But to get any of these programs to work, you need the infrastructure around it to make it work. Or even something as very practical as saying, let's just pay for the program. These programs don't happen in isolation. They happen because an organization sat through and developed it. So if we're not funding the organization, but only funding the programs, what does that say? And we know, based on how our system works, if something is system level within the ecosystem, there is more serious approach giving to it in terms of investment compared to if it is just one of the after-school programs of the 20, we need to sprinkle the money around.
Thank you, Leo. Kim, Sue, would you like to respond to that question with Asia?
Yeah, thanks, I do actually. None of you need me to tell you that the program is needed. But I did want to highlight the report. If you haven't read the SPRC report, I'd really urge you to take some time to do so. It's lengthy, but it's a good read in that it's very engaging and interesting. And I think when you read the report, it becomes immediately obvious why this kind of program is needed. So just the very first section of the report talks about, and it details the inherent injustice that exists and has existed in the Ontario educational system. So it really lays it out for you if you aren't very familiar with that. But for example, there are 4 things I'd like to mention. For one thing, there's that extremely Eurocentric curriculum, right, where Black and racialized youth feel like they don't belong in their own school and in their own province. There's a Safe Schools Act that has really disproportionately harmed Black students and other racialized students. There's also guidance counselors, unfortunately, and teachers who have had lower expectations for Black and racialized students. And Kenesha shared that example, which honestly is, I don't have any words for how disappointing it is, and I'm so glad that you and Anne-Marie were able to work with the boy and the family. Then there's also the over-policing of Black and racialized students. So these are just 4 things, 4 reasons why a program like this is important and why HWDSB has to partner with organizations like Empowered Squared. Because, you know, Leo said it too, we can't do this by ourselves. We haven't fixed it, and it needs to be fixed. And so it's that important partnerships with Empowered Squared, with SPRC that will make the difference, and for us is a first step, so that we can hear that feedback even when it's hard feedback, and that we can work together and learn and do the best for students.
Thank you, Sue. Kim?
I think I would just add to that I think that unless things are integrated, unless we work together, it won't be sustainable. And so we're looking for this not to be I know Empowerment Squared is looking at this not to be a one-off, one and done, but if we want this to last for the next 5 years and 10 years and 15 years and for our youth that are coming up, members of community have to take ownership for it. And I think that is a big piece. And I think that's what we've seen happen with the partnership with the school board, with the partnership with the Hamilton Community Foundation, Empowerment Squared, SPRC, and so many others, is that we have all said, we will own part of this. We will work together to be able to accomplish this so that we can see the success that every young person deserves to have, and break down some of those barriers that are getting in the way of people, of young people being successful through no fault of their own, but through systems that have been entrenched over many, many, many years. So I would say that that investment piece is really important in terms of this working long-term and being actually entrenched into the community and embedded into the community, regardless, when none of us are around anymore, and there's a completely different group of people sitting on a different stage, then this will continue to live on only through the investment that people have and the ownership that we all take to make this happen.
Awesome, thank you. And so our final question for the panelists: what role can the community play in ensuring the successful integration of newcomers in the community? Anyone, sir, anyone.
Okay. All right, thanks. So I think what I want to talk about is engagement. And I'm going to be honest and say, and those of you who know me, and some people are out there who know me, can be quite blunt sometimes, to my detriment at times. But I'm going to be honest and say, we have, as HWDSB, we have not always done the best job of community engagement. That is true. But we want that to change, and we are trying to change it. We really want different communities to engage with us, and so we urge communities to engage with us and give us another chance, even if maybe the first time you did, it didn't go as well as you hoped. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things that we've been doing a little bit differently. So recently, the Safe Schools Review Panel, which is mentioned in the research report as well, we had an unprecedented number of HWDSB families and students engage with us in focus groups and in really being honest about telling us what was not working. And we heard overwhelmingly from them that we really need to take a look at anti-bullying policies, in fact, everything through that equity, anti-oppression, anti-racist lens. And that really led to a really comprehensive list of recommendations in terms of safe schools. And then most recently in the fall, we also had a lot of community engagement in terms of developing our human rights policy, led by our human rights officer, Johanna Otite, and she and her staff engaged deeply with many, many community members, parents, and students, and once again heard loud and clear what that human rights policy needs to look like. So we're hoping by doing that kind of work, we can gain the trust of communities so that they will engage with us, because we believe that engagement is what will make the difference for students and newcomer students in HWDSB.
Thank you, Sue.
So the question was, what role can the community play? I think the community plays a really important role for all of this, and some of that I think is just in terms of cultural competency training and awareness. And regardless of the spheres that we are individually working in, asking ourselves those questions of, if we're providing service, what would this service be like for someone who's a newcomer? How do my policies and practices within my own organization or within my community group affect people that are newcomers or people that are racialized? And what are some of the, I think just having some of that awareness in terms of what some of those barriers can be helps us to be able to break down those barriers and make changes. So Sue had already mentioned one of the things I was going to mention, just in terms of how important it is to have people that look like look like our students, and our student population has changed. It doesn't look the same as it did 20 years ago. And Hamilton happens to be a city that tends to see more newcomers than other cities. And so with that, we need to be able to adapt and to grow and to welcome, welcome people as they come into the city. So those would be some of the ideas that I would have in terms of the community.
Thank you, Kim. Last but not least, Mr. Johnson.
I think I would like to see more of the energy that we've invested on the fighting side brought to the building side. I can't emphasize this enough. When we call for a protest at City Hall or anywhere to do something, we get 5,000 people show up, right, from our community. When we call for a meeting to talk about what can we do in the next 10 years to ensure that kids are not dropping out of high school, if we get 5 people show up, we're lucky. Right? If we ask to raise funds to get money for the protest at City Hall, we raise it in 8 hours. If we ask for investment into the long term of what would avoid us having to go to City Hall to protest, no one responds. So I want to take it right down at the very basic community level, that there is nothing wrong with protesting the ills in our society. There is nothing wrong with any of that. But we also need to now bring some of that very energy onto the building side, because if we're dealing with over 400 years of deficits, deep deficits in our community, it's going to take more than the fight to overcome it. It's going to take some deep cultural shift, some deep cultural change, and some deep foundations laying, because some of the foundations we're going to have to uproot it. That is just the reality. So I will hope that the community in its totality, whether on the individual level or organizations level or partners level, and some of that building we mean investments. So everyone can play their part within their means, whether your part is through investments, or whether your part is through volunteering, or whether your part is through partnering with some of the agencies. We all have a role to play. So we are not asking community to do anything that you can't do. We are asking the community to assess its means and be able to come to the building side using those means, because it will take some serious building for the long term to get us over the hump, that we wouldn't have to, hopefully, go to City Hall and protest, because the building will be so strong that we can deal with the issues down at the community level rather than getting to the point of absolute confrontation. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. And I think if I could add to that as well, I think showing up here is a huge piece of that. And as Leo mentioned, it's always difficult to get people to come to events. I know it's like, oh my goodness, they're going to talk forever. Do I really want to listen? But it's important information. And if we are not aware, if we are not informed about what is happening in our community, we will sit in our homes and we will think everything is okay. And we are not always aware of the challenges that our friends, our neighbors are facing. And so we thank you for showing up. We thank you for being here, listening, and the conversation doesn't stop here. We will share the report so that you have an opportunity, sit down with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and read through and really engage with the report. And if you have questions, Empowerment Squared staff, we, SPRC, HWSB, we are here to listen and answer your questions. So let's just another round of applause for Sue, Kim, and Leo. We thank you for being here today. At this time, I'd like to invite Amtul Shafi to the stage. We're going to hear from one of our interns, our summer interns, and also a participant in our program. I told Amtul, I said, don't make me sit on the stage. I don't want to sit on the stage. Amtul, it is a pleasure to have you tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself to the community here.
Hi, my name is Amtul Shafi, and I'm a summer intern for the administration position. And we're currently working on the Smile Cookie campaign. So we're hoping to see you guys back there later on, so please do come.
You can tell she does her job very well. So Amtul, could you tell us, why did you and your family come to Canada?
So we moved in November 2019, so it hasn't been very long. And we moved here due to safety issues. And when I say safety issues, most people say that Pakistan is not under a war. So why do you say you have safety issues? So among Muslims in Pakistan, we have conflicts among them to the point where they are mortal enemies of each other. So when things became really bad to the point where we have to save our lives, we basically moved here. Yeah.
And what were some of the challenges that you and your family faced in terms of integrating into the school system?
So I would say the education system here in Canada is very different from that back home country. And that is because even if you look at the way we graded, so back in my home country, 100% of your grade comes from your final exam. So they'll check your final exam and whatever you get is your final score. But then here you have projects, assignments, and only I think 30% of your marks actually come from the actual exam. So I think that was a huge transition because back then you would just study 1 week before and then you get it. But then here, you have to do it as you go. So I think that was a huge thing. And also back in Pakistan, we had books, like huge books. And we used to study from books, but as we moved here, everything was digital. So I had to actually learn how to study from a computer, a laptop, and to actually learn how to use it. It was very funny to people when they would see me trying to like turn it on. And they were like, how come you don't know how to turn on a laptop? And I was like, because I've never used it before. So I think things like those, if I would had Empowerment Squared, because we were back in one and we don't have anything like that over there, I think it would have been amazing to have Empowerment Squared.
Thank you. She's making me blush. Okay. So Amtul participated in the focus groups.
Yes.
And why was participating in the focus groups important to you?
So, as I said, it was pretty hard to transition. And if I would have someone to listen to me and to actually care about me, that would have been amazing. My brother is having that opportunity now, which I didn't. So since we moved here, I participated in the focus group. And they asked us questions like, what problems are you facing? And what do you think we should change? And how do you seek our support? And I think it was really important for someone to ask these questions and to actually come up with a whole school readiness program, which is all about the needs of our high school students, and especially those who are actually transitioning. And it's not even just high school, it's like kids younger. So I think it was really important for a platform like that to exist, so where our voices can be heard and they can actually be turned into something that could help us.
That's awesome. And you started to mention it, but why do you think a program like the School Readiness Program is needed?
Yeah, so I think it's really important when people come here, as Canada is becoming more and more diverse and more people are moving in. I think it's really important for people to actually get to know what the school system is like. When I moved here and I didn't know there was something called guidance. So there's guidance support and I didn't know they exist. So I think it's really important for us to know those things because as I moved here, I was in grade 11. So I needed to plan for my post-secondary and it was really important for guidance to exist. And obviously I wanted to go to health sci, so I needed good grades. So in order to get those good grades, I had to study a lot. And because the education is very different from back in home country. I didn't know how to do most of my maths problems. And most of my assignments, especially, I had to take like English. And English is very different, like the literacy English they have, it's very different. So I think it's really important for something like this to exist so people can get aware of what it's all about. Like most people who come here don't even know how to access a report card. So I think it's really important for them to have that training and to actually know how to access all the facilities that are actually available to us. Because sometimes they just don't even know that they exist.
Thank you, Shafi. My last question, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I would say I need a homework circle for McMaster.
Thank you.
Because I didn't have one in high school, and my brother is having one now for his high school, and I'm very jealous. And I need one for my university, and also that you guys should definitely come buy some cookies.
Oh, there you go. She plugged it in again. I love it. Thank you, Shafi. A round of applause for Shafi.
Thank you so much.
So I told Shafi, I said, definitely, I'm like, that's where we're headed next. We're headed to Homework Circle because that's where it began. Leo began with the Homework Circle at Empowerment Squared. And I think that's one thing that we don't understand. You know, sometimes students, they graduate from high school and we're just like, okay, thank goodness they're gone. They made it. And we don't know that there are a lot of newcomers that don't make it through college and that don't make it through university because it's a very different environment. And the types of support that they had in elementary school and in high school no longer exist, or they're not aware if there are programs that can support them, they don't know about it and they don't know how to access it. And so I know that in the back of my mind, I think Empowerment Squared has to go from the cradle straight through to university. Yes, we're going for the cradle. We're like, let's get them while they're young. So part of the school readiness program, we want to talk about longevity, and we know that it just can't be about starting, stopping, perfect timing, starting and stopping, and we want, and it's also not about us. It's not about just our ideas as adults, but we also want to engage our youth. Because we want newcomer and racialized youth are not involved in their communities. They're not getting involved in clubs. They do not feel, by their words, ready to take on the responsibility of being leaders in their community. We know that they have the skills to do it. We know they have the capacity to do it. And we want to make sure that we help them and empower them so that they feel as they have the confidence to go out and make a difference in their community. So part of our strategy of ensuring that this is a systems level innovation is developing a youth leadership program. And so the goal of the youth leadership program is that they will contribute to the development of the school readiness program in the long term. And so we couldn't just do that. We couldn't just say, everyone, come over here, tell us what to do. You go lead, without equipping them to do it. So this summer we had the opportunity to launch the Elite Leadership Program. And I'm gonna get to that because they've been here. You know, you see these pretty blue bags. They're waiting anxiously for me to get to that point. But before we do that, I want to invite Stacy and Oliver to the stage, who's gonna talk a little bit about the Youth Leadership Program, the model, and the reason why we chose the model that we did. Welcome. Share a mic? Or do you want your own? We'll share a mic. You'll share a mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Wilson-Forsberg, and this is Oliver Masakure, and we're both professors at Wilfrid Laurier University. And I got caught in that storm on the way down the QEW, and I'm quite late, so my apologies. We're really happy to be here tonight, and I got to listen to a little bit of Kenisha's remarks about the Youth Leadership Program, or the Youth Council, which we sometimes interchange the titles. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about that project that we're very excited about. So the single most predictive indicator of dropping out of high school is a student's academic standing during grade 9. A lot of pressure. It's a well-known piece of research. And while many students face a lot of academic challenges transitioning to high school, our research has revealed that a lack of guidance both at school and at home when making decisions is particularly pronounced for youth with refugee backgrounds. Beyond mentorship and tailored information about course options and post-secondary possibilities, youth also need tools, training, and confidence to make their own educational decisions. Youth councils, or youth leadership teams, in the academic literature we often call them youth councils, are one way of ensuring that youth have a sense of control over decisions that affect their lives. Defined as formal bodies of youth who advise decision makers, youth councils have successfully advanced program development and policy making in youth recreation, education, and advocacy. In partnership with Empowerment Squared, McMaster University, and York University, our project is creating a youth council that will build the skills and confidence among youth to make decisions that affect their education and lives. So we're working with Empowerment Squared to restructure the school readiness program to make it more youth-led through creating this youth council. The one-year pilot project comprises about 15 youth members recently recruited from the school readiness program. Participation in the council will give the youth a unique opportunity to build their skills and competence, and will give Empowerment Squared a better understanding of how youth engagement in the council contribute to the success of the School Readiness Academy. So our team draws on a lot of research findings, some of it that we've carried on ourselves, on best practices to assist Empowerment Squared to design, implement, and evaluate this project. So we're now fully into putting this project together, collecting data. We're doing, the workshops just finish up, and Oliver is going to discuss some of the outcomes from the workshops that just happened, or the camp, I guess it was called. 4 peer knowledge sharing sessions, 2 focus groups, and one-on-one interviews with participating youth will happen at the end of the project. So our objectives are really, from at least the point of view of the research side of things, to determine how the youth can more confidently engage with adults at Empowerment Squared and then on to their schools, to measure the extent to which youth gain agency and increased confidence by participating in the Youth Council, and to recommend how to improve and scale up the Youth Council initiative to the rest of Empowerment Square's programs after that one-year pilot. So I'm going to give it over to Oliver to talk a bit about the model that we're using.
Okay. So I'm going to be brief because sometimes when I start talking, it won't end. And what I'm going to do here is describe the project itself, but I'm going to take a parent's role. I've got a 14-year-old who's going into grade 9, and some of the observations that sort of motivated Stacey and I to go to Leo and say we want to try and find out why our youth are not participating at school is our own experiences as parents. We've got kids that are in school, and you always wonder, are they taking the opportunities at school to participate? And part of our research shows that they don't. Part of the reason is because they lack self-confidence, but part of it is because they don't know where the information is. And Sophia, you talked about sort of coming in as a newcomer and not knowing what to do, etc. All of those things compound to and they make kids be afraid to ask for directions and so on and so on. So the model that we are following in this project is youth-led. We want the youth to be able to say the things that they are missing and what they actually need in order to be successful at making their own decisions. So as a parent, I'm always worried, okay, will my kids be able to not just get good grades, but get good careers or choose what they want to do. And sometimes I'm a little bit intrusive, and I'm sure you get that instinctive feeling as well as a parent. It doesn't matter who you are. Parents, we always sometimes want to know what our kids are doing, but our kids also want the space to be able to make their own decisions. So it is that tug of war between us as parents giving the appropriate advice at the appropriate time, and the kids making informed decisions that's based on not only the understanding of the world, which is different from mine. My kids were born here, and I have a different understanding of the world than they have, particularly Canada anyway. So that tug of war is really critical. And as parents, we sometimes get lost in sometimes the heat of the moment, give them too much advice or little advice. So we want in this project kids to be able to have the voice in the safe spaces that they've been afforded at Empowerment Squared. Kenisha and Misha have been on the ground, doing the project, leading the kids. Stacey and I, we've just been observing from afar, and what an excellent job they've done. So they've had workshops where kids have been invited to express their not just opinions, but also their level of participation in the community, the constraints they have in accessing information, and what they would like what resources they would like in order to be fully engaged kids, not only at school, but also at home. A lot of kids, they tend to also disengage at home. Either they've got a mobile phone or they've got an iPad. Part of that has to do with their confidence, right, in engaging with both the parents as they get older, but also with other kids, etc. So this is a platform that they've created, fabulous, for kids to express themselves. So they've done the workshops, and some of the outcomes so far have been the fact that some kids have expressed openly that they've faced different challenges at school. They're not listened to, or their opinions are not considered as important. Some of them have been bullied, or some of them have been excluded from important conversations, etc., etc. And the platform that they've been given at Empowerment Squared has allowed them to not only share their experiences with their peers, but also to gain confidence from the fact that some of their peers have experienced similar problems, but some of them also have experienced positive. So there is that self-reinforcement, assurance, which is important. It's a very important platform that they've been afforded at Empowerment Squared. Many participants highlighted an increase in their confidence to take up space, to be courageous, to say what they feel, right? Sometimes my daughter, she said one day, if I don't say anything, it's not because I don't have anything to say, it's because maybe you're not listening to me. And so how should I listen to you? So I'm also, as a parent, always investigating. How can I listen to my kids? And how do I make sure that I give them that space? So I hope as parents who are here, some of the outcomes from this project will also inform you. How do you deal with kids as they get into grade 9, grade 10, when they are maturing and they're trying to identify who they are, right? What their interests are, that are actually different from us as parents. We tend to forget that important part. Over the last 2 weeks, over the 2 weeks, the kids have grown and become more confident. Things were harder at first, like public speaking, like I'm doing right now, and working together as a team. But as the workshops went on, the kids became more open, and they became more confident in themselves. So at the end of the 2 weeks, there were reflections as to what actually they had learned. A few skills were identified, for example, conflict management, cultural differences, and how to deal with those differences, how to gain confidence, how to be courageous, how to disagree, but respectfully, right? What else here? Communication is an important piece. The other point is, okay, this is the problem when I start reading. Okay. They've been able to express who they are, who they want to be, what they want to be in the future, which is really, really important. Okay. The next steps for the project is to scale it up. So Kanisha and Misha will, identify everything that's gone on, so far, and we will identify, the key steps moving forward. I'm excited about this project. I think education is one of the things that keeps me awake at night. I do other types of research, but education, because I'm an immigrant, and I'm worried about my kids as well, and so this is a really, really important area that always keeps me awake, and so anyway, I can go on forever, but we'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Oliver. Okay, so this is the time we've all been waiting for to find out what's in the blue bags. So as Stacy and Oliver mentioned, this summer we had the awesome privilege, I had the awesome privilege of working with 16 children and youth from our community. Look at those faces. Oh, it's so precious. Sorry. Let me not embarrass you. So we had an opportunity, we had focus groups with the young people in our community again to ask them what are some of the skills that they felt they needed to become actively involved in their communities, because it was apparent to us they were not getting involved. Out of those conversations, they identified that they needed skills with regards to communication, teamwork, understanding how to develop good goals, but I think the overarching idea was we need to have the confidence to be able to walk into a space and feel as if our voices are going to be heard. And so we wanted to provide them with that opportunity to learn these skills, learn some of the skills that they felt were lacking, and also give them an opportunity to use those skills as they learned them. So we ran the program in 2 cohorts. We had 2 cohorts. So the first cohort, they were invited in to go through a few days of learning different skills. So teamwork, communication, goal setting. I'm missing one. What am I missing? Advocacy, thank you. Someone was paying attention. And advocacy. And then that first group had an opportunity to then teach their peers some of the skills that they had learned in that first week. So they were able to facilitate activities for their peers, and so it gave them an opportunity to use what they had learned immediately. And so that's what we wanted to see. We wanted them to know it's not just about acquiring information, but what do we do when we've acquired that knowledge and putting that into action and giving them an opportunity to develop those skills in real time. And so as a part of the program, they had an opportunity to not only participate, but earn prizes. And we also wanted to show each of them that we value the time that you took to come every day, to come on time, to participate, and to give it your best. And we told them that it doesn't matter your age, what you have to say and who you are is very important, and you're very valuable. And like Leo mentioned, you may forget everything else, but you'll never forget how people make you feel. And we value you. And you belong in any space that you want to be in, okay? And don't ever forget that. So, without... So you know when you go to a conference and they give you a goodie bag and you get to take swag? So this is what we did for them. And I just want to show what we have in the bags for everyone to see. So there's a water bottle, nice. I'm not gonna open the box. But this is what I want to show you. So this is elite. Sorry. I'm hiding behind. So this is elite. So it's empowered leaders in training at Empowerment Squared. All right. So we're going to do this in this order. We're going to to call up each of the participants. We're going to start with the second cohort. So the second cohort, they came as participants in the second week. We're going to call you up as soon as we get Brianna. The first person I would like to call up is Brianna Akporner. You want to come from behind? It's okay. Brian Akporner. It's a family affair. Gideon George. Well, they also got an Amazon gift card. Go that way. Safia Mohammed Ahmed. And I believe we had one who's not able to make it. Zara Abdurrahman. So the second group that I'd like to invite to the stage, they were part of the first cohort. So they went through the training in the first week, and then they had an opportunity the second week to use those skills. First individual I'd like to call up is Janet Akporner. Yes, there is an envelope there. What's inside the envelope? So, what's inside the envelope? I put it in there. So, we all know that our time is money. And it is summer vacation. And a part of what they had to do is similar to what you would do if you were going to a job. And so, inside the envelopes is their salary. Because like we said, they are valuable, their time is valuable, their opinions, their skills are all valuable, and we want them to know at Empowerment Squared and wherever they go that they should demand the same type of respect and appreciation for what they do and what they give, okay? Henry Akporner. Omar Ali. Looking sharp, looking sharp. Fresh haircut, I see it. Sebastian Hernandez. Atia Naim. Tesla Stiller. Lemuel Napolu Johnson. And last but not least, Tashif Mahmood. For me, it was a truly transformative week. It is always a great, you know what, and I'm a teacher, I can't help it. It is always good for me and uplifting for me to be in the presence of young people. They continue to challenge me to think differently, to stay on top of the times because there's all this slang that I don't know. So, you know, they can be speaking English and I'm like, what did you say? What does that mean? But sus, yes, I know. I learned that one today. But it has definitely been a great experience, and I am humbled to have been allowed to do that, to being allowed to work with you. And I thank you for all of the effort that you put in. And we are going to continue to call on you. So now that you've got those certificates, we're going to put you to work. I hope you didn't think we're going to leave you alone. And so you are now a part of the Empowerment Squared leadership. And so when we need you, we will say, hey, you got to show up. All right? But I want to thank all of you for your attention, for just engaging. You know, I saw heads nodding. I saw, I get that. And so I thank you for being here today. At this time, I want to invite Yana Faizai, who will give a vote of thanks.
Thank you. So while Yana is coming, so our board chair is here, and I wanted to say something specific that he has been behind us for the last probably 5 years. That wasn't mentioned, but as you read the research and the report, you will see as part of the School Readiness Academy, as newcomers, when we come to this country, one of the injustices I believe that has been done is the fact that nobody tells us about indigenous communities. Nowhere in the immigration process that factors in. So we get here and all of a sudden you start to hear different stories and information, and sometimes it is not the correct information, neither from the right source. So we've been existing without any engagement at all. Most newcomer communities, there is absolutely never any point of contact with indigenous communities, neither there are understanding around it. So we are so pleased that as part of the research and as part of the School Readiness Academy, indigenous ways of knowing is going to be part of it, which means we'll start to work with indigenous educators who will be able to help newcomer youth start to understand the importance of our indigenous communities on this land.
I wonder if, Bonnie, you want to respond to that, so I'll bring the microphone to you.
I just want to say that was music to my ears. My name is Bonnie Vao. I am the chair of the Board of Empowerment Squared, and we've really been working on that to make sure that whatever we're doing in Empowerment Squared helps all our communities, and we believe that First Nation communities, indigenous communities, are part of the work that we should be doing. So besides all the wonderful things I've heard today, the great students, congratulations. I'm particularly delighted that we're now moving in that direction. Thank you so much, Leo, and everyone else.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I don't know about you, but I've been at the back of the room, and I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled to be here to be celebrating this really important milestone for the organization. For those who do not know me, my name is Yana Fezai. I'm the Manager of Community Development and Partnerships, and I'm a lifetime advocate supporter of Empowerment Squared. I came here 15 years ago, and I haven't left because of how much I believe and love this organization. Now, I want to tell you something really interesting that I experienced in 1999 when I walked through the borders of Canada, which is very evident here today. It was interesting. As a new Canadian, in every institution I walked into, I was received with labels that determine how others saw me and understood my lived experience. I was as an English as a second language learner. I was a refugee claimant. I was an unaccompanied minor. I was a crown ward. Now, these were titles that are now understood as code words to help others understand who I was and where I came from. This was my first introduction to Western systems, and I thought the approach to relationship building was honestly bizarre. I was really expecting a cup of tea, maybe some fufu, maybe a cup of soup. I found system to be very transactional, where hierarchy ruled. I was just another name on a piece of paper that was pushed around for legal purposes. The knowing and feeling as a young person or as a human that you don't belong, that you're not welcome, that your needs are being met, was further damaging to what I was already experiencing in my life as someone who came here as an accompanied minor, experiencing a lot of trauma of the families, the language, the culture that we leave behind. And in my deepest, darkest nights and days of transitioning to Canada, my question was always, is there anyone out there that speaks my language? Is there anyone out there that understands the realities of what I have left behind? These are the questions that through the research we're still asking today. I started to wonder why systems had become so cold, so devoid of empathy, compassion, and understanding for each other. Weren't systems designed to serve the people? These experiences would become my guiding compass, though. They taught me which buildings I was welcome into, Hamilton Public Library, which people I could trust, the educators who asked questions, the educators who listened to my story, who tried to understand my culture, my language, my traditions, and the challenges that I was facing. They were the people that would forever change the trajectory of my life. And I know the people, or the young people who are here in the room today as well. They helped me understand the context of my own life in relation to other people here in Canada and around the world. And they helped me navigate these challenges and circumstances and the mess that I got into because I was pretty mad at the system. Until I found my path, which led me to Empowerment Squared, where all of us daily work to create an environment where people can unpack the pain, the suffering, the trauma, the challenges, and more importantly, their dreams and aspiration. A place where people matter, a place where people feel safe to reach their full potential. I share this experience with you today because, as you've heard this evening, our approach to learning, educating, welcoming, honoring, and investing in the next generation of Canadian students cannot be ordinary when their lives and the places that they come from are extraordinary. Each and every one of us has a moral obligation as stewards of our next generation to ensure that we build better systems than the ones that we have inherited. And we know that's possible when we have the courage to act together, as we have been in this room today with all of the partners that have joined us. So on behalf of everyone at Empowerment Squared, the staff, the incredible youth and families in that corner, our funders, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, the Hamilton Community Foundation, the United Way, our donors who are in the room, our wonderful volunteers, all 167 of them. Nothing that we do at Empowerment Square would be possible without your investment and leadership. And because of you, we are here today in this room reimagining what education can do if it's led by the voices of the students themselves. their brilliance, the beautiful cultures and wealth of knowledge that they bring to this country, and their intellectual potential that each and every one possess. We welcome all of you in this room to think about the role that you want to play in the next phase of the school readiness program. Because you're definitely an asset to our community, and your gifts and skills are definitely needed to move this project forward. Now, this concludes the formal part of our evening. I would now like to welcome you to stay and enjoy the food, ask some questions. Oh, Kanisha says yes to questions. Oh, no questions. You have something. Okay, bring it up here. And please, as Shafi said, don't forget to order your smile cookies, because we only have 40,000 to sell. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Leo, could you come up here one more time? One of our participants got stuck in the weather, and I don't want to forget her. So we just want to invite Leanne Albaktik to the stage to receive her certificate and her gift. And you're looking lovely. And now I promise that's it. Thank you very much.